Hello everyone. In this video, it's the subtopic to domestic violence called What is Trauma? So I'm going to go over this for a little bit because every type of abuse has trauma. No one is immune from it. People who become victims of a stressful or life-threatening event or accident often experiences the event as an emotional shock. Examples of traumatic events include being a victim of a crime, experiencing domestic violence or sexual assault, being abused as a child, surviving a natural disaster, or the death of a loved one. These events are beyond a person's control and can happen to anyone. The hallmark of a traumatic experience is that it typically overwhelms an individual emotionally, mentally, and physically. These events can cause feelings of terror, intense fear, horror, helplessness, and physical stress reactions. The ways in which we cope with the stressful events are ineffective in the face of traumatic experiences. The impact of these events does not simply go away when the event is over. Traumatic experiences are profound and sometimes can change the way in which people see themselves and the world. Traumatic events can often produce lasting changes in your emotions, your thoughts, and your body's stress response, and how your body feels. This is going to be information that is focusing on common reactions to trauma, focusing on the trauma of domestic violence in particular. So I hope it will assist in, some understanding and basically in the way of which of your experiences have impacted you. Because domestic violence is just summed up as a whole, but there are a lot of different traumatic experiences that create the trauma from domestic violence. Knowing that these reactions are normal, valid responses can help you figure out what your next steps are. The important thing is that you move on your journey towards regaining a sense of safety and control over your life and work on healing and focus, really focus on moving forward. So when we experience trauma at the hands of someone we love and also trust, it often impacts us profoundly and in many areas of our lives. Domestic violence involves a pattern of coercive and controlling behavior that your partner uses against you to obtain power and control over you as well as your life. By using such tactics as intimidation, coercion, and threats, economic abuse, emotional abuse, and using your children, your partner's actions might make you feel fearful, powerless, and hopeless as you struggle to stay as safe as you can in a dangerous situation. Even if you decide to leave the relationship, your partner might still pose a significant risk to your emotional and physical safety, which often means that healing from abuse or abusive experiences takes additional time and effort. Yet many victims of domestic violence do heal and go on to live fulfilling and enriching lives. You can too. So how do people react to trauma? There are three common clusters of the body and brain's responses to trauma, and they include hyperarousal. This refers to the physiological body changes that occur in the brain and bodies of trauma survivors, which prepare them to respond to perceived danger. You might feel like you are constantly on the alert for a danger, startle easily, and feel like you are on all the time. These physical responses can occur weeks, months, or years after the event when a person is reminded of the trauma. Then there is intrusion or re-experiencing events. These symptoms refer to the experience of the trauma intruding upon your life after a traumatic event is over. This involves having memories of a disturbing event when you don't want to or weren't even thinking about it. This often makes people feel that they are not in control. And then there is the constriction or avoidance reactions. Often our brain responds to stress by trying to keep us safe through ignoring or avoiding anything related to the trauma. This can include numbing of feelings and thoughts connected with the traumatic situation. You might feel the urge to avoid all circumstances associated with the trauma and may withdraw from others as a way of seeking emotional safety. So how can trauma impact me? Each person is impacted differently by their experiences with trauma. We do know that trauma can have a huge impact on many areas of your life. Trauma often impacts a person's ability to control their emotions, make themselves feel better, make decisions, and develop plans. It is very common for victims of domestic violence to feel like their relationship has changed their lives in multiple ways they would have never imagined. Survivors often talk about the way in which abuse has affected their physical health, mental health, emotional health, feelings about themselves and others, their relationships with loved ones and other people, their spiritual relationships, and their understanding of the world. Trauma often changes people, but we know that survivors of trauma are strong. We know that recovering and healing from traumatic experience is possible and happens quite often. So what can help me heal? Give yourself some time. It can take time to recover from traumatic events, but understand it takes time to heal and process things. Does seem to help almost everyone. It helps to get some sleep and make sure that you are eating and attending to your body's needs. Talk about your traumatic experiences. Telling your story to those who care about you is essential to healing. Breaking the silence about your experiences can be an important means of coping and will help you process what happened to you. Re-establish a sense of safety. Feeling safe is the first step in healing from trauma. Often this begins with regaining a feeling of control over your body. Pay attention to your body's reactions and think about how you calm down when you are stressed. So, how do people react to trauma? We all react differently, and that is okay. Our bodies and our minds tell us what we need, and it is important to listen. People can always give us advice. People can tell us what works for them. We can try those things. We can make variations to those things. But in time, we can all find what works. And there is no time limit. It is simply something that you do for yourself. You cannot put a limit on it and be like, in 3 weeks I'm going to feel completely better, I'm going to be over it, it's going to be done with, that person's out of my life, I don't ever have to see them again, I don't have to think about them again. But then you turn around and you see your child, the child that you had with that person. Or if you left, you took the blanket that y'all shared. Or you're cooking a holiday meal and somebody is serving that person's favorite food. There's always reminders and there's always triggers that come with trauma. The way you handle it for your benefit is what matters. And always keep in mind, no matter how bad the trauma is, that you are a survivor. You have, or you will, come out on the other end, and you will come out stronger and wiser. And with that, you can take your trauma and you can help others, because your story matters.